the body snatch people kind of like remember Animorphs?
Yeah.
The body snatch people can like animorph into like seed demons. It doesn't look good.
Demons?
Like there's literally a scene where like the first guy that gets like captured by the seed people, he goes to an orchard and there's like a big flower with like what looks like a butthole in the middle of the flower. And he of course is like, I should poke this with a stick, and he pokes it with a stick, and then it just jizzes like all over him, and then he becomes like a seed person.
Besides film, cameras, and lighting and all that crazy shit that you're really good at, what the fuck got you into music?
Into music?
Yeah, well, like what got you into that creative? Or is it just a part of like
making music or
making? Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Take 3.
I think we were on. So I had a buddy Mike in Boston that we would like. A couple times in a row, we got absolutely crushed and went to his studio space, and I've never like held a microphone before in my life. Like I'm one of few alternative S people that never had a band in like high school, college, nothing. And I was doing vocals, just fucking around on a mic, and I think we were on Uncanny Harbor, and a friend of mine, Paul, that actually used to make like horror movies back in the day, hit me up. He's like, hey man, like you want to do vocals for a band? And I was like, I'm really busy. Like I can't. I don't know how much work that takes. And the I think once we were in editing, so that was probably like summer 2019.
Probably
20, yeah, because 2020 we released it, right? So summer 2019, he hit me up and was like, we need a vocalist. You want to do vocals? And I was like, yeah, sure. So went to the bassist's house. They like auditioned me, and it was pretty bad. It was like some neighbor said, is someone like dying upstairs? So I was just doing like scream, like they were doing like a crust punk band. And I was just doing scream vocals. I was like, I'll try to learn your songs. Yeah, right. And then Paul hit me up and was like, yeah, dude, like you're in the band. And I was like, all right, I should just bail on this. I should just stop.
So were the original members in there before you joined?
Yeah. So my buddy Paul was playing guitar. He's kind of like the band dad. And then my buddy Kevin was doing drums. And then other Paul, which we call French Paul, was the one that played bass.
French Paul?
Yeah.
Why? Is he French?
Because he speaks French. I don't know.
He does? Oh, okay.
Oui.
Yeah, but like it was funny because like we were doing.
Maybe he just wanted your wiener. And he's like,
we got a bunch of gigs off the get go, or they had gigs booked, and they had a gig coming up where we were opening for Conflict, which is like a UK like punk band at Sonia.
So UK of them.
Yeah, right. Conflict. It's all the conflict and none of the problems. And I was like, we
hate the government.
Like
Stop the government.
I've done
That's
like
German.
I've done like public speaking. Like I've never had any like stage fright with doing band stuff, but it's definitely a different thing performing in front of people.
That was the first time.
Yeah, that was the first time in 2019 I performed.
So you didn't do anything musically until 2019?
No, I was in the background. I was making synth stuff, which I finished for the Night Hunter.
So more musically, like instrument wise, not so much vocal wise.
No, but I always equated to like I like, you know, metal vocals and more. You always get in this conversation with people when you like metal music, like it just sounds like Crash, sounds like the Cookie Monster. And it's like I would always defend. I mean, you end up getting like a hard defense. They'd be like the voice is an instrument, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Things you wouldn't want to hear. You wouldn't want to hear someone just like, but over some cool riff, it sounds different. Yeah, like the gutturals, like gutturals got really popular. Like people doing pig squeals and like, So I was like trying to do that for them, and I was like, "Is that cool? Like we're doing like a crust punk band." I'm like, yeah, I don't give a shit. We got offered to headline a show in Montreal, November 2019, and I was like, "I'm game." Little vacation, got my passport situated, like went up there, had a great fucking time. It was freezing cold, like one of those winters where like you're just looking at the ground, walking to like get to the next location.
Yeah.
But that started, that was just me doing vocals, on stage shouting bullshit. And then once the lockdown happened, I was like, I have Ableton. I already paid for it because I used to mix in. I was really familiar with Logic X. Was that the
Pro X?
That's the newest one.
Yeah,
it was good. Like Logic X is great.
Absolutely.
And then I didn't have a Mac anymore. I was trying to learn a new program, so I got into.
You should have went to Reaper, right?
Well, so I downloaded Reaper. It was something about it was. I was really heavy into like MIDI.
Yeah,
and Reaper wasn't as MIDI friendly as Ableton was.
You have to, it's so customizable, but you have to put the time into it, and that's the problem. Like if you want to jump into something, you can't really do that.
But also even like Ableton's like $100. And they have a bunch of courses. No, I know. No shit.
Or $60.
I know what you're saying, though. Yeah, it's more friendly.
I get it, though. If you're more familiar with it, like if you played around with it enough and you're like, I like how this is, you want to stick with it.
Something about the arrangement view and the sequencing view made more sense to me because you could basically just make. I had someone say, like, are you just using loops to make stuff? I'm like, no, I'm making my own loops. Like
everything's from scratch, motherfucker.
In Ableton, you just, you devise your own loops. You devise like the sound. And then when I was like taking it serious, I was like, I have like 8 songs I wrote. I was like, I should start like cutting these and like figuring them out. I cut a couple. And
this was like during the pandemic kind of.
Yeah, I had a lot of free time.
So like 2020, essentially 2019, 2020.
2020, 2021. Yeah, because went back to work 2021.
It's funny because I used Ableton back in the day. I have experience with Ableton.
I like the design for MIDI. I mean, I would tell you the built-in sounds in Logic X are better.
Oh, I'm surprised you didn't get into FL Studio at all.
FL Studio is a whole nother realm.
It's complicated, but
no, he did when we were making that other jam.
Yeah, but before that,
I figured too. I mean, I know nobody that was using it. It always felt like the developers treated it like a joke and not like a real.
It feels like a toy.
It does.
It does feel like a toy, but it is powerful.
You don't want to do crazy. You don't want to master in there at all. You can mix.
Yeah, but figure also like the math like. Fine-tuning MIDI in Ableton felt kind of like Logic X did.
It's whatever's comfortable.
Yeah,
you just got to go with whatever's comfortable.
About a year ago, I had some friends hit me up that were like, "Hey, we want to use some of your music for a podcast," and I was like, "Sick." And I was like, "I'm gonna finish the album. I should cut these songs and give them some songs." And then I was like close to finishing them, and then they were like, "Yeah, actually, we don't need them." I was like, oh, great. So I had the album half finished.
Thanks.
Then my buddy passed away, him and I used to like make music together. He's the one that
he passed away.
Yeah, my buddy passed away.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, thank you. He's that DX Reface.
Yeah.
That was his. So we used to jam on that. And he always loved like, 80s horror movies and stuff. So I finished the song like that I was working on, like dedicated and like for, him to get the album done. And then it was more just like spending 3 months to figure like, how do I distribute this myself? Cause I knew like how DistroKid worked and everything else, but it's not that hard.
No, not at all.
And then once it was, the whole album was like a concept for a movie I was already writing. So,
which I was
trying to stay focused on
motherfucker.
It's still in the mix, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a treatment. I had a short film from college that was like an 80s detective film. And there was some interest in that from a local producer that I rewrote as a short, I think the summer of 2020. So I was still playing with the music stuff. But it kind of didn't really pan out. Then I got connected with this guy that was like, yeah, we could do it if it was a feature. So I've been working on that. Yeah, 2021, about like a year, almost more than a year now. Going back to work, it's hard to like have time for little creative projects and things like that. But yeah, no, I'm close. It's more like I just want to have a final draft so I can be like,
where are you at? Would you say, are you writing the script, or
with writing it?
Yeah, well, in the process, if you want, or are you on hold? Are you on hold, or are you like actively?
I try to put some time in it like every week for a little bit, but it's more like I have probably like a feature script is about 90 pages,
right?
Give or take.
Yeah.
I have about like 60 right now that are like fine, like I like them, and then it's more like adding on to that.
Do you write everything up to 90 and then go back and revise, or do you kind of?
You can, but in the past you throw a lot of stuff away.
Yeah.
I was saying before about people doing like
Do you, when you write, when you have a concept and you want to write the story, do you write it as an author would, or do you go write in a script mode? Because obviously it's a completely different structure.
Yeah, I mean, so the problem is when I started writing again in like 2020, I realized pretty quickly that there was like, if you don't have a script that's formatted properly, like no producer's gonna read it.
It has to be formatted properly, but before that.
For like the idea?
Personally, for me, like I like, if I have an idea, I like writing it as an author would, like a book.
Like a story,
When you read a novel, it's obviously not friendly for a script.
But also
you
like,
got to break it down.
The point of view for a script is way different. So
of course.
It's like, it's
absolutely.
You write from a narrator's perspective.
Right.
And that's like, I mean, you have to figure you're writing under a hard style or I guess guideline for how a script should be read, because if someone gets to a point where there's like a gratuitous problem with it, they're going to call it out.
Do you think of stories as, this is like, in my head, I think of, for example, I have a story with a set characters and it's very, very vague, but I have the concept. I think of it as episodical because everything shows now. So I think, this is how it would play out. When you come up with an idea, do you think in terms of a script, or do you think in terms of the overall story, and then you have to force it into a script? You know what I'm saying? Like they're completely different.
No, they are. I mean,
one's more structured and one's more like.
I would say, especially because like a script, any script that you finished, right? If you had like a 90-page script, what you're supposed to do is turn that into a spec script. So a spec script would basically be like, okay, I have 15 scenes at Andy's house, but like then I have 6 at Matt's and
location
4.
based.
Yeah, sort of, but also like
a summary almost.
Like you slam down, like if there's like, say there's flashbacks where like that time I pooped on the floor at Andy's house, like that's gonna be cut into shooting at Andy's house. I'm not gonna go ahead like shoot everything else. I'm like, oh, the flashback now. Like you organize it via kind of via location,
breakdown. Like everything, like this is all gonna get filmed here, kind of thing.
You basically remove the editing.
Yeah.
Right. So like if there's an edit where like I'm at your house and then I remember pooping on your floor and then I'm at Matt's house, I'm gonna, shoot all that stuff
in one whole like scenario, one day or whatever.
That's what you're supposed to do. I've worked on a lot of like quick and to the ready like sets where like they don't have a spec script and like
they're just like, we're gonna do this and now we're gonna go back to the past and film it over here.
For example, they can if they want. Who cares?
Right. For example, like I'm more story oriented versus the formatted script. I understand it. I understand how they're formatted and I understand how they work. But there's pros and cons to both. So you have a Stephen King who will write an insane story that you cannot possibly translate wholly. You can't.
Yeah.
But then you have a George R.R. Martin where if you do it right, you can.
Yeah.
And the result of that is the characters are so much deeper and there's so much more depth to them because it was written in a novel format and it was properly translated into a script.
Well, I mean, figure for a novel format, you follow, especially like a Game of Thrones, you follow different characters from their point of view, right? So the difference is you can't add in like a script, you can't write like Matt felt sad. Like you have to...
You emote that in a different way.
That's an actor's responsibility to bring that, right?
Yeah.
Like you can bring like Matt just found out both his parents died and his dog got shot in the head. Like, you know what I mean? Like the actor's not gonna be like, and he was happy. Like, you know what I mean? Like
they have to dive into that.
There's the setup.
Yeah.
There's all scripts. The number one thing is setups and payoffs. So you have setups, even in the format, right? Like you have a setup, you have lines, whatever else, but those are all setups and payoffs for later things elsewhere. Like, you know, and figured too, a lot of scripts, I've never seen a feature script that went directly to the script. They change things on the whim because of
course.
location changes or shooting changes or, hey, we can't fit this in the budget, you know, like.
So my biggest struggle is dialogue. I feel like that's a hard thing.
So I found that with dialogue, you have to write basically, I mean, usually people will do the protagonist first, but it's whoever you feel most comfortable. You have to find a voice for that.
And that can change if you're skilled at it. You can change the protagonist. In a George R. R. Martin deal,
like
that happens a lot.
Yeah.
The protagonist shifts.
Like side stories and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, figure if you're going to write about a character, right, you can write about them. And then when you're writing lines, you have to be them. Right. So it's a lot different, right? And figure, say you already have, like I've written things before where I'm like, oh, I have an actor in mind. So I know how kind of they would want to go about this.
A professional personification of the actor or a physical person that you would hire to do it?
No, like an actual person.
There's a difference.
Like I had an actor in mind. I wanted to cast him, so I wrote it for him because I knew it was in his wheelhouse. Right?
Because I know people they'll if you're building a character, you'll throw on a face that physically matches it, and you're like, I could see them doing that, but it's not necessarily set in stone that they would do that.
It's for writing. It's more like shifting into these voices, right? Like you have to be able to sit yourself. Okay, I had a long time where I was really struggling to write like female characters. So like, I'm not.
Yeah, because how do you relate?
Female.
Yeah,
like, and I'm like,
you want some estrogen?
It wasn't like, oh, I don't have a vagina, I can't write it. It was just like. Something about the voice was hard to find.
Yeah, it's a different point of view. You know, you don't have that point of view.
Like for me, I can have 1,000 scenarios where I'm like, that would be fucking crazy if like I could set up the world and I could have like 10 or even like I would keep it minimal. Say like there's 4 main characters and they all are interwoven with each other and whatever. But it's like, how do you? Everybody has to have a unique. Because the problem is when you write something, it's you.
Yeah.
So how do you not have you and everybody?
It's always going to be you.
It's hard. You can have pieces of you, but it has to feel like it's not. It can't be obvious.
It was. I had a course I failed in college that was about dream analysis.
You son of a bitch.
And well, one of the big analysis types for analyzing dreams is to say that like all of these things in my dream are parts of me because they're in my head, right? Which is true. So the idea is that even when you talk to, like, say you can't, like I said, I can't write a woman, or like say you can't write like a, I don't know, like a murderer or something. Those people in your dreams are parts, extensions of you. So like you can write that.
There are crossovers.
It's more finding a place. So I found like I'm dealing with now, I'm trying to write like a very, like my original script was like one character kind of focused. And I have like way more in there now. And it's more like shifting myself. Okay, this character can't sound like, you know, this other guy because then it's going to be too similar. But also the fact that like he's in a different place. And the biggest drawback with that is like everyone wants to have a like, you guys ever seen Neon Joe Werewolf Hunter?
No.
You should watch that. It's really good. It was on Adult Swim.
Okay. He was an Adult Swim guy. He watched all this.
There was a whole bit where like he has a backstory. He's like, you better read my backstory. And he pulls his sweatshirt off and there's like tattooed on his back his whole story, like physically.
Everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Well, that's a comedic thing though. Like it's harder to really write something believable. I feel like I bring Breaking Bad up because they had a writing room where everyone spit ideas and it was like, all right, where their whole deal was where are the characters at in this moment of the story and what would they do and what wouldn't they do, and it was all around that.
Well, I mean, like, but figure like what do you know the least about Walter though? Like the least.
How big his dick is?
He thought he had a big dick.
I saw Walter's dick. It was huge.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you have an answer for that? Or?
I mean, you don't know much about his old company that he ended up falling out with.
Right.
And they hit it on like, you basically know he sold his rights to the company and his friend is way richer, whatever that guy's fucking name is.
Right.
And you don't really need to know about it. But
that like famous guy or whatever.
But the whole writing,
reaches out to and all
that also comes super late, right?
Yeah.
Like
They set it up early on, but vaguely.
Yeah.
And then they come back around.
But like every fucking IP now has an origin story. I'm sure they'd be like, let's do young Walter White.
It's too much.
Yeah, but
it's too much.
But the whole idea is that like the backstory is what gives what motivates a writer to write a character more conclusively or in a better voice.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of writers will fall victim of writing too much backstory.
I have that issue, yeah.
They're like, and then they went to the grocery store and they met their first wife. And
I have that problem too. I get that. It comes back to the when do you know that it's done? You have to literally set boundaries for yourself, and you have to say, this is as far back as we're going, and this is how far forward we're going to go. This is about this story. Yeah. This is from A to B, and that's it. And then...
Well, but figure too, like, I would like to know more about what... was it like Walter had like a business for some miracle drug?
He came up with the idea.
And he cashed out, and then he made... Like, I don't need to know anymore, but there's that question in the back of my head, like, you get to a point where you're like, oh, this is where his life took a different road, right?
Yes.
That's all you need to know.
He became a teacher.
Like all the backstory you need to tell is where that road turned.
And the thing too, that they set him up to be the guy that he became.
Yeah.
They show that he was like he was like oppressed by his wife and by he felt like he was unfairly handed the cards that he was dealt, and then he got the opportunity to flip that under the guise of this is for my family, but clearly he had other motivations and he wanted to boost his ego. And
I think too, like there's
during his cancer and all that.
That's like that.
Use that as a
that's okay for your main character, but figure too for like we don't need to know Skylar's past.
We don't
need to know,
and we didn't know that.
We don't need to know Bill Burr's character's past.
No.
He just shows up and he's a baddie and like,
and he was perfect for that.
But like, the mistake that's made is that like someone wrote, probably not in canon at the point, like I didn't watch any Better Call Saul, but I
watched one season.
Like Gus Fring's backstory's in there, I think, right?
I think so. I never got that far.
And like he's just all I had to know was he was a chicken shop owner. That was a secret.
That's my problem with
that's
prequels.
Way cooler.
That's my problem with prequels, and it's obviously a business tactic, and you have to make money.
Yeah, they go into like more in depth of other characters.
I don't need
to make it what it is.
It's for simple people to.
Yeah,
it's like
that's my problem with El Camino. I don't need to know what Jesse does after.
Yeah,
because it's way more powerful for me to assume.
Yeah,
you know,
but figure like the we're in the era of like the easy wrap up, right?
We are.
Every Marvel movie ends up with like a clean little.
Everyone needs to know how it ends.
Package and like little tiny.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so convenient, but it's like
I don't like that.
Like someone was fucking losing their mind because they didn't. Where'd Saul Goodman come from? Why didn't he?
Like
why does he know?
Like they had like anxiety and they were like couldn't sleep because of it.
Yeah.
They're waking up at night seeing Saul Goodman's face. No. I can't do it. It's like
it's the mystery that a lot of the time is I mean, that's a classic.
That's the whole
trope.
Point.
That's the classic trope of those. There's 1,000 million fucking documentaries about serial killers and about those murder mystery shows.
Yeah,
the mystery is the fun part.
Yeah,
exactly.
Once you know who did it, it's like.
Well, it's
whatever.
Yeah,
like
it's
cool, but it's like
and people could see that as a cop out and a scapegoat and like a quick way to get it. But at the same time, it can be good. Like Sopranos just ends and it's like good,
leave it
good enough. Makes sense.
I heard the movie was trash.
That's what I hear. I didn't watch it.
I didn't watch it.
I heard it had very little to do with Tony Soprano.
It's a lot of hey, remember this?
Yeah,
it's a lot of I'm all set with fan service. You know.
I mean, like, South Park already pulled it out with member berries. Everything will do it, but also like it's. What was I joking about recently? It was oh fuck! What was it?
What don't you joke about?
No, I know everything. Right? No, it's like everything is trying to get famous enough to have their own like theme park.
Yeah.
So it's like
that's what it feels like. Their own universe. The cinematic universe. Everyone wants one.
Like I don't need it. I don't need all of that.
I agree.
Like if you can picture George Lucas like pitching all of these little details about Star Wars back in like the 70s to someone, you're like,
it'd be
you're fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Like
it'd be too much.
No one cares. Like no one cares.
Doesn't
and
matter.
like
you need to be vague enough.
Well, it's that thing where it's like that's the problem where you can have a zombie story, for example. This is a great example where you have a World War Z where it's
You listening, Jesse?
Listen, Jesse, you fuck. You have a World War Z, for example, or something like that where they show what's happening to the world.
Yeah.
And you're disconnected completely.
Yeah.
And then you have a Last of Us where the entire 10 hours is 2 characters.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it focuses on their journey. And then you feel, because you're not overwhelmed. You don't have to worry about everybody.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones pulled it off because they did have a big cast, but they did also focus mainly on a few characters.
Yeah.
And they did it through seasons.
That's a big challenge for me when I have like all these ideas and it's like, all right, well, where do I set my bars? Like, where are my boundaries?
I mean,
because you want to like, you're like, oh,
you want
maybe this character comes from this
exactly.
backstory.
You want to express so much, but at the same time,
they have to be motivated by some history.
Yeah,
there's got to be some history.
to a limit.
I think the big one is like a lot of people will do like role playing exercises. Where they just, okay, if I was this character, what would I do in this world?
Right.
And they just go through, okay, if I was not the main character. The main character, you have your arc or whatever else. If you have your side characters and you make up like, okay, well, if I was in the same world in the same time as this, how would I interact with this guy, blah, blah, blah. And the answer to that might be that they interact with the character and then they're not in the movie anymore. Like think of like one of the most famous characters in Blade Runner is like the eyeball mechanic. And he just makes eyeballs. And he makes eyeballs, and then he's not in the movie anymore. And he's really cool. That's like a cool side character. Like, or even I said Star Wars. Everyone's been talking about fucking Max Rebo. You know who Max Rebo is?
No.
Max Rebo is like the elephant-looking man that's blue.
Okay.
That's like playing
any of the Star Wars. I know exactly.
Yeah. So his band is the one playing in the Star Wars Cantina.
Yeah.
Do you know what style of music he plays?
Jazz.
Nope.
Motown, metal.
In the Star Wars canon, his music is called jizz music. I'm not even joking. Look, it's
that works.
That's
awesome.
Max Rebo's.
Dude, we're gonna release some jizz albums.
Some jizz music.
We need some jizz music.
So for Night Hunter, for example, is that
jizz music?
Would that be the title, or is that the album separate from the title of what you would choose for the actual thing? If you were to like release it as the movie,
so
the movie,
so that's like the '80s thing, right?
Yeah,
okay. That's what we did the music for.
Okay. The movie was called Valrosa Beach. It was like a short I was working on for college.
Okay.
The Night Hunter Project was just like an artist name I chose for that.
If you were to release it as a movie, would it be Night Hunter or would it be something else?
It would probably still be Valrosa Beach.
Same deal.
Yeah.
So when you write that, you have obviously everybody starts with like a concept, like oh that'd be cool, if whatever.
Yeah.
How the hell do you set the boundaries that you're going to live in with that story?
It's kind of
hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard. It's the hardest part, I would say.
I've talked
next to dialogue, because dialogue is fucking brutal.
I've talked to a lot of people that were like, wanted to start writing, and then were like, how do I I don't really want to do like a 3-act structure. And I was like,
yeah,
no matter how you write it,
naturally,
it will become a 3-act structure.
Or 4, like Breaking Bad did 4-act structures. Yeah, it's just natural.
But I've also heard people say they'll call it act.
You want to explain the acts?
What acts?
Like an act structure?
Oh God,
what that even means?
Like a battle axe?
Though that it's essentially like the hero's journey. Is that what it is, or like that?
Yeah,
that's
pretty,
one of.
I mean,
Rick and Morty does like a 3-act. Is that their typical episode? Is like a hero's. It's a hero's journey.
I mean, I've heard people. I've heard people describe the 4-act structure as a 3.5. So they'll call it like. First act is like, set up for all the characters and everything else.
Which you always have.
Yep.
Yeah.
Second act is the consequences, right? Whatever's in that world, whatever the dilemma, conflict,
right,
antagonists are. And they'll call the second one, so 2A and then 2B. So it's always still a 3-act structure because the consequences are, raised in the second act.
So is it like all right, this happens, now I have to do this to achieve this?
Or like this is happening, so I have to do something to counteract it.
And then the third act is usually like the resolve, and then so like if the beginning of the movie is introduction and an introduction to the stakes, and the second act is raising of the stakes and conflict. The third act is resolution and then
Solution.
solution, and then
Results.
they basically they call it like closing action. So like usually after like, you know, most major motion pictures, you'll see like the point where you're like, oh, the movie could end right now. And you know, like it never does. There's still never like 10 minutes. That's because that's like the wrap up. So it's like the meat of any movie takes place in that second act or 2 and 3 into 4. But a lot of people just call it 2A, 2B.
So essentially, the hero's journey arc is like you have something that happens. You set up the character and all that bullshit, but then you have something that happens. They have to go out to do something, and then they come back and return to the beginning, having changed, learning the lessons that they learned or whatever.
Essentially,
that's what it is.
Or coming back with different knowledge.
Exactly, and sharing it with I mean, that The Hobbit is, all of those adventure movies, Lord of the Rings, all that shit is the journey, and then you come back to where you started and back to, and it's like
but there's always some little closing action that's like wrapping everything up, or maybe adding a question for a sequel.
Right,
that usually is what happens.
Which I never like.
Where it's like it has that ending where you're like, oh, there's gonna be more.
Oh, this might happen again, like the same way.
Like you could literally see the beats,
or something happens at the end where you're like, oh, it's gonna happen again.
Yeah,
you had a. Look at that finger.
Or
that's hard to do.
You've seen the Sons of Anarchy?
Yeah, we all have.
Because I said bring out the lanyard your baby was eating.
Yep.
Yep. But like that show was it was so obvious when there was closing action in each episode.
Yeah.
You want to know why?
Music.
It was slow guitar song, and then
through this world.
No, not even the intro. Like the end, the closing action of every episode would be like these long jib shots, and then someone like looking and like writing down, and then another character, and then like these just arbitrary silent shots of songs.
I don't like.
There was like no captions, no one talking. It was just music and everyone just doing their own thing.
I don't like predicting commercial breaks, which is Lost personified. I don't like when it, like you're saying, when it's obvious that an episode's about to end. Like you just like
they just do
like. And then that's the reason why I don't like procedural shit. I can't get into where like even House or like fucking Law and Order, where it's every episode is a new thing and you can tell that it's like a contained story. I'm like,
nothing continues.
It's a new killer every episode.
Yeah, I heard someone say for those murder shows or like SVU where it's like someone commits a crime in the beginning. It's always like, you know, Law and Order, it's like
it's the hook.
Someone getting raped, and then someone being like, I saw the rape, and then they immediately solve it, and then you're like,
no,
that's not the guy. That's not the
guy.
And then they find out in the end it's the wrong guy, or
it's the first 5 minutes of the show.
They can't find the guy, and then they find him in the last. It's like there's 2 different types of Law and Order SVU episodes,
which is basically what a lot of shows are stretched over seasons.
Yeah. The most famous show about rape.
Right.
It's like,
you raped her. No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Well, that's why
it's too obvious.
You piece of shit. Oh, well, you didn't rape her.
That's why, like I said, like Miami Vice is the first like cinematically shot police show.
I've never seen any of them, so
you should watch it. It's on Peacock, I think, for now for free.
Of course it is.
Right. But it's they all if you watch that show, all of the storylines and setups you've seen repeated in other shows. Like the archetype, like, you know, intro with like a doped up rich kid that's like just throwing his life away.
Just does something that triggers something.
So in these massive shows that are they're kind of a little bit against they have structure, but like a Game of Thrones or a Breaking Bad, is there any moment in those shows you're watching where you're like, oh, I'm catching on to this formula? Because I personally, I didn't feel like there was very formulaic.
I used to catch it with like, I remember, and I liked The Office. The Office used to.
I did too.
Office used to.
I watched both of them.
There's some funny shit in there.
And then Parks and Rec did the same thing.
Yep.
You could like, I mean, but even
it's comedy. Like I give them a little leeway.
Yeah, but even now Curb, I can see okay, Larry's at the Holocaust Museum. I bet she's gonna steal some shoes. Like you can see it coming.
Yeah.
Because
you know the formula. Like he's gonna do some stupid shit at the beginning, and it's gonna bite him in the ass at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you watch the new Sherlock, the modern ones?
The
Cumberbatch and
those are good.
Martin Freeman.
I like those.
They're procedural, but I like them. It's one of the
predictable
passes.
or
It was
Not predictable, but every episode is a different case.
yeah.
okay.
But they're an hour and a half,
But they would go back kind of.
and I like the style of it. It's very modern. Like they have like this is the first show that I've seen. I mean, no, House of Cards didn't do it where they have the text popping up and shit. Like they have
Gotcha.
like a unique way
Yeah.
of showing the information.
Like you see him going through he's going through these math equations, but it shows
They
you
show it, yeah.
or text messages.
He'll be scanning the scene. It's kind of like Batman, like a Batman game where you scan the scene and he'll be like talking. He's the king of fucking rapid fire shit. He's like a George Carlin reading a script. He just fucking says shit fast.
I didn't mind how House of Cards did it.
I loved House of Cards.
Overdoing the green screen phone and then like seeing a fake messenger out.
I did House of Cards for me had a good run. I loved it for a while. I thought it was great.
I think I didn't
And then it
watch.
fell off.
I watched to a certain point.
I liked it a lot. Yeah,
It was interesting.
it was different at
And
the time.
then I realized
The film noir way of talking to the camera and shit. That was cool.
Whenever when his Hillary Clinton wife got elected, I don't think I watched after that.
Same. That's when he started getting into his problems. And then I was like,
Just killing all the victims. I mean, they accidental deaths.
it was too obvious. It's like, you can't go around killing everybody and no one catches on.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing? But I liked it for a while. Was that Netflix's first big show? That was one of them.
Yeah.
It might have been the one.
I just can't say anything more. The problem is people are like, oh my God, did you see Book of Boba Fett? I was like,
No.
not at all yet. No, I was like, was it good? They're like, yeah, it was good. I was like, I'm not watching it then.
Yeah.
I'm not watching.
Yeah.
I'm not watching
I
it.
feel the same way. My standard has been set so high for shows, and it's such a commitment of time now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if I'm gonna put 10 hours into something, better be fucking top notch.
I just feel mentally ill being
I feel the same way.
I know the guy. I know.
Too much.
I know that the armor. I know that guy. I should watch that.
It's like one of those things where if you're sick, you're like, all right, I'll put this on because there's nothing else to watch.
Yeah, right.
And maybe you'll go back to it or
Sick
something.
streaming.
I think I was joking about the Matrix being because I think the new one they poke fun at the whole IP in general.
By the way, I asked how it was to someone who saw it, and that's the reaction. It's like,
They were poking. Yeah,
it's all right.
Why,
They're
why,
like,
why,
oh,
would
It's
I,
all right.
It was
John Wick
good.
was a little better.
why would I watch it? This morning I watched a movie called Killer Rack, which is about a girl with evil and demonic boobs that kills people. That was pretty
It's
good.
like Killer Sofa, but Killer Rack.
I gotta set
That's
up
hilarious.
screen and just project these fucking things so we can just watch it and talk about
Put
it.
it right here. Put like a
But
white
no, what was
paper.
this? What was I saying? What was this thing? Fuck.
Velocipaster, Killer Rack.
No, before that.
Before that, I talked about Midnight Mass, Haunting of Hill House, and then you said Peacock. Have you seen? You talked about something.
Manhunter.
Manhunter, yeah.
Manhunter was
Manhunt, the game. Never
kill
played that
people.
either.
It was
Oh, that was fun.
Manhunter is fuck.
Did you see Mindhunter?
No, you're fucking.
That
wrong.
was really good.
It's
you see Mindhunter?
Silence of the Lambs or Red Dragon before that.
That's what Manhunter is. I mean, Mindhunter.
Yes, that is what Manhunter is.
Manhunter?
Manhunter is.
That's what Mindhunter is.
Manhunter is Silence of the Lambs. It's before that movie came out.
Before
it's,
Silence of the Lambs?
yeah,
It came out,
It
or
came
it's
out?
about
Or
before?
it came out in 89.
Oh, okay.
So it was before
So
they
it's
made
older.
Silence of the Lambs. But
I don't watch anything past
Same concept?
2001.
It's the same concept though.
yeah, but it's Michael Mann made it, who did Heat.
Is it based off of a serial killer or some fictional completely?
It's based on the book, which I think is
Whatever that
named
is.
Manhunter.
Okay.
Not Silence of the Lambs. I don't know, but
Gotcha.
it's something really weird and surreal about it. It's like the killer or Hannibal Lecter's played by someone else, a famous actor you'd recognize.
It's the same deal, like cannibal type
Yeah.
guy. Or that's the whole deal. Same
but it's
deal.
the something about it's very the way it's shot's very surreal. It's they're-
like The Cell. You ever see The Cell? That was kind of
I
fucked.
don't think so.
Jennifer Lopez, weird casting, but then she basically gets into a serial killer's mind.
Yes,
she can.
that's what it's like.
It's fucking weird.
He's trying to get in the mind of serial killer, so he's studying it, and
Yeah,
it's
it's The Cell.
he
Yeah.
basically
the same
brings
deal,
himself
yeah.
insane.
Yep.
It's good.
Similar. I love that stuff.
It's spooky.
Silence of the Lambs obviously fucking holds up. Did you see Mindhunter or no?
The TV show?
The show.
I should. I have not.
It was really good.
It's
The guy who played Ed Kemper was spot on.
He's like hunting different historical serial
So
killers, right?
it's before they termed the term serial killers. Before
Gotcha.
so it's basically them interviewing serial killers in prison. And the guy who plays Manson is fucking amazing. In season 2,
Mm-hmm.
they visit Manson, and it's the same guy who plays him in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's
Gotcha.
the same, and he's like he's perfect.
He's got a
fucking amazing.
career on lock on playing Manson.
Yeah, right. So in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he plays him before the murder.
Gotcha.
And then in this show, he's obviously in prison, so he plays him older, and he's like perfect. It's so weird. He even sits up high like he used to, like sits up on the table, like tries to get that.
I've seen side by sides where like
Really
it
good.
looks a lot like the
Ed
guys.
Kemper was phenomenal too. Like the guy that they chose was perfect.
What did he do again?
What, Kemper?
Yeah.
He cut his mom's head off and then killed a bunch of other chicks or something. He was one of those
floorboards. One of those guys.
I don't know if he even tried to hide them. I don't know. He was one of those fucking wild, like he was, yeah, like yeah. No, he was the Führer.
Was that your Ed Kemper?
My hair starts like coming down. The Telltale Heart. You've read that? Everyone's read that. It's classic. It's like that it's the classic guilt where your guilt is what gets you incarcerated at the end of the day. It's not even like they might not even be onto you, but you can hear the heart beating in your head. Mm-hmm. And that's how they get you. Edgar Allan Poe. Did you ever look into his shit? He was pretty fucked up. Like his story. H.P. Lovecraft. You into that at all? I love that shit. And I talked to someone recently, and they were saying that I can't really get into his shit because there's, like we were talking about structure and all that. There's none of that. It's all world building, and that's it.
I watched. Oh God, it was someone must have bought the story. This was happening in like the 80s and 90s. People were buying up, horror.
Yeah,
stories
like classic stories.
Yeah. So he wrote a story called The Unnameable, which is about like in the 1800s, there's like a peasant man that has like a out of wedlock, like demon spawn son. And he like locks him away in like a room in the attic and like ends up killing him. And then they bury him and they forget about this like demon kid in the attic.
And this is grounded for him in Earth because he's usually like everywhere but Earth with his stories.
So it's funny because like the end of the movie, the demon gets defeated by a tree. So it's like, it's not a great, it was probably one of the low budget Lovecraft stories, but
sure.
The movie was funny because they tried to set it up like one of those like, ensemble like horrors, like, oh, we got the jock and the whore and the nerdy girl. And like they all like one night go to the house where this happened and like try to find out what happened. Mm-hmm. And the movie makes no sense. Probably makes sense in a book because their one nerdy friend is in the basement the whole time just reading a book. Yeah. And everyone else is getting murdered. And he's like, I found more about the demon kid. Mm-hmm. But I was watching it and it was like the makeup was really well done. It was like a goat man, like a satyr.
Yeah.
But he has hooves. So when he's like chasing them around the house, you see like his little hooves. I'm like, when you hear the hooves, like,
yeah, right.
They're goat hooves.
Yeah.
You can see his like human ass in one scene. Because he has like they did enough makeup for like the body and like he has a little like they must like spray painted his legs, but he like gets in a tussle with someone and like his ass comes out.
Did you see Color Out of Space?
Was it the Nick Cage one?
Yeah.
I didn't watch that yet.
I think you would like it a lot.
Is it spooky?
It has. I showed you that. Remember that? Where they get fused together. It's all fucked up. Mm-hmm. I liked it a lot. It's very, it has the elements of B horror, but I think it was done as well as they could have with the cosmic horror element. Because the problem people have with it, which is what everyone has when they read books, is like they're like you can't display it the way that, because his whole personification of it was it's a color that you can't describe. Like the way he says it, you can't see it, and they just used purple like you saw. Did you see Mandy? The other Nick Cage? Yeah, it's like that where it's very psychedelic purple. They use purple as the color. but everyone's like bitching about it. It's like, yeah, but you can't put cosmic horror as you read it onto film. Like, how do you do that?
Well, I think I saw a review on Cosmic Horror where they were like, the whole reason it works better in a book is because your imagination,
You
right?
bring, it's something completely
You
different.
bring something
see it.
in. But I think that's literally I think there was a quote from The Unnameable where it's like an unnameable demon, something no one's seen. And then in the movie, they have like a full frontal body of like a goat man. It's like, okay, well, that's what it looks like. Or like, I think what the Mist?
The Mist, yeah.
That's like based on a Lovecraft book. That is a Lovecraft.
That's Stephen King. Where they're in the convenience store.
Yeah, that's a cosmic horror where they're like,
It is cosmic, yeah.
They don't.
All Stephen King, by the way, is cosmic at its core. It's all one universe. And it ends up in cosmic
Like Castle
territory.
Rock.
Like it comes from cosmic. It's like if you go into the origin of it's cosmic.
Did you watch Castle Rock or no?
I want to. I haven't. I have no reason not to. I just haven't. You saying it was decent or it was
The
good,
first
or?
season was good. I heard the second season was okay, but I think
I
it's
like The Mist too.
I think it's a
I did like
reset.
it.
Like most.
Yeah.
Well, that was a good one. that was the intro to the Fallout theme song. You hear that?
Da, da, da.
That's what
I
Jeremy
love
Soule
that
was
theme, by
writing
the
with.
way.
Just dung, dung.
That's a great theme. I love cosmic horror when it's so hard to do well in like a visual term though. I was gonna say something about.
Listen, the whole point is you can't show, like, I mean, the thing is the perfect example of a cosmic horror where like you can show the monster, but it's like ever changing.
It's hard to do.
Well, and the thing, it's like a dog, and then it's a fucking
The Thing was good. Like,
spaghetti monster, and then
they did as good as they could have with that concept. Like
Yeah.
they showed it as whatever it was taking form. They showed it as that at that moment, but they never. There was no true form essentially in the Thing.
it was like constantly changing. It could be a person, it could be a dog. It
Yeah,
could be-
which adds to the horror, I think, because you don't
Yeah.
know what it is, and it could be anybody.
it's spooky.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
I watched this movie called Seed People
that
last
sounds
night.
fucked.
It was bad. It was it must have been everyone had a Canadian tuxedo on. But it was like there's meteorites that are actually seeds that came from like an alien planet,
Yeah,
and then they grow into like I don't know, flowering plants.
mm-hmm.
And if those flowering plants get on a human, they can like body snatch them. But the body snatch people kind of like remember Animorphs?
Yeah.
The body snatch people can like animorph into like seed demons. It doesn't look good.
Demons?
Like there's literally a scene where like the first guy that gets like captured by the seed people, he goes to an orchard and there's like a big flower with like what looks like a butthole in the middle of the flower. and he of course is like, I should poke this with a stick, and he pokes it with a stick and then it just jizzes like all over him.
Huh.
And then he becomes like a seed person.